for being part of our Needs Assessment Committee. We are meeting today to develop our comprehensive needs assessment. And on our committee, we have 2 teachers, our district's assessment coordinator, and then we also have 2 parent representatives here at our meeting today. The reason why we have a comprehensive needs assessment meeting is because we need to look at the needs of our campus and where we need to really align our curriculum better so that we're serving our students better. So on your, you have a copy of this PowerPoint. It's up to you if you want to look at the screen or if you want to look at your handout. But this is called the Comprehensive Needs Assessment Toolkit, and that's what we're going to work from today. All right, our agenda today is we're going to go through why you have to do this, why as a campus we need to do this, what is a comprehensive needs assessment, why we need to conduct one, and how to engage the CNA process to make it something more than just what's on paper. All right, TEA wants us to do a needs assessment. If you're familiar with how like a general public school runs, typically this is done as part of a Title I assessment. So Title I schools have to do this because they get Title I funding. And even though we get a very limited amount of Title I funding, we still have to do this because our STAR scores this year did not come out to where we want them to be. So this is another reason why we're required to do this. Because our district is now identified as improvement required. And these are some of the steps that we're going to go through to make sure that doesn't happen again. So 2 of the areas that we're going to focus on is this one right here. We're going to build a foundation of reading and math. We did score well in reading last year for 3rd and 4th grade, but it was our math scores and our writing scores that we need to really focus on this year. And then the other one that we're going to look at is improving low performing schools, which right now, according to our STAR scores, we are a low performing school. Overall, we are not, but according to the new A through F accountability system, we are. So the purpose of a campus needs assessment is to increase transparency so that we can see and everyone can see what we're doing and why we're doing it. I will have a parent meeting next Monday night for all of our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade parents to explain to them our STAR scores, to explain to them what we've put in place to help our scores improve this year. That's one of the many 1,500 requirements that we have to do. All right. We are going to increase transparency through explaining our A through F accountability system, which is brand new this year, looking at our data and how it affected us and why our scores came out the way they did. And then the other 2 don't really apply to us. It's more just looking at data and the new accountability system. All right, what is a comprehensive needs assessment? It is determining what our needs are and what do we need to focus on, what strategies and activities will help us meet the needs, and were we successful in addressing our needs and focus areas. That's what we'll do at the end of the year. So part of being an improvement required school district, we had to hire what's called a SIP. It's basically an instructional interventionist that's going to work with me and Dr. Knox and also the 3rd and 4th grade, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers. I met with him last week twice, and I actually knew him from previous school district that I worked for, so that worked out nicely. But we identified our 3 goals that we're going to have. Will be improving growth. So we want to show that our 4th and 5th graders made growth from the test that they took in 3rd grade last year. And then our 4th graders are making growth from the test that they took last year as well. Our next goal is going to be improving math scores and seeing our student percentage increase as far as the students that met expectations and mastered expectations. And then also the same for writing and looking at our curriculum that we're using for writing. From those 3 goals, I'll create what's called a target intervention plan, which will be submitted to the state after it's approved by the board by September 28th. And also after that, I will incorporate that into the campus improvement plan, which will be the same as the district improvement plan since we're so small. Because I'm also the district interventionist and principal at the same time. All right. basically the federal requirements for a comprehensive needs assessment is that we have a team like this that looks at our data and just determines what our needs are. And we need to look at the academic achievement of the entire school, our state academic standards, and how that affected our accountability. Now, ESSA is part of, most of you are probably familiar with No Child Left Behind. This is what took over after that and what's in place now as far as meeting the standards for our students. And it also tied to federal funding. All right, so the purpose and what we're going to do today is we are going to look at how our programs and our instruction and our resources impacted instruction last year, why our kids did not meet STAR accountability, and we're going to examine multiple sources of data, and then we're going to identify strengths and weaknesses, which I've really already done that. It's basically just looking at what strategies are we going to do to improve those. And that will involve the district and campus improvement plan, district and campus parental involvement policies, looking at what we spend our money on, and then we won't need to have a school parent compact because we're not a complete Title I district. A school-wide program shall develop a comprehensive plan that is available to the local education agency, parents, and the public. So once this plan is developed, I will take our target intervention plan, incorporate it with what we talk about today into our district improvement plan. That will need to be presented to our school board and approved, and then I'll have a second meeting where I'll present it to all of the parents. And then at our staff meeting, I'll present it to all of our staff members. Lots of presentations. All right. The aim of our campus needs assessment is basically to look at student performance. You know, are we providing everything that they need in order to be successful in the classroom? Why? Well, because we have to. But the other reasons, because it's all part of our accountability, not only academic accountability, but our financial accountability, everything that we use our funding for, we have to show that we're using that appropriately to meet the needs of our students. And of course, there's a law that says that we have to do that. And we're going to look at district level and campus level, which in this case is all in one. Because last year it was only one campus that took the STAR test, and it was only 2 grade levels at that one campus. This year we'll be adding one, but for last year, and this is what it will be based on, is last year. We do get a little bit of state comp ed funds to help with interventions, not a lot, just because we're so small. And this is just saying that we have to be able to explain what we use our funding for. Now, how do we engage in the process? That's what we're going to do today. Now, this is just a sample plan. That's not our plan. Our plan is much faster than that because I have like 2 weeks. So, what we're going to do is we're going to look today at a vision, and which has already been done. We already created that vision with another team called the Target Intervention Team. And that consists of Ms. Armacost from Brighton and Ms. O'Neill from Cypress Trails, Dr. Knox, and myself. So we created a vision last week. Our school profile is basically what our demographics look like. Identifying our data sources, which from last year would be our STAR results and our BAS results and our MAP results. Even though we don't still have that program, we do still, thanks to Alicia, we still have all of that data that we can look at. All right, we've established our school-wide planning team. Yay, that's you. I know you're so excited. And we'll talk about how this is going to look and what we're going to do today. And the members can be parents and principals and all of those people, but because we're so small, we have 2 teachers, a district assessment coordinator, principal, and 2 parent representatives. Document, 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 so we will be obviously signing a sign-in sheet today and talking about the minutes of what we did today. what we used as evidence, which will be our STAR scores. I will share the vision with you that we came up with. Basically, our school profile is presenting the state of what our scores look like right now, and then we'll talk about what we need to do to fix that, and then hopefully at the end of the year, this will all be great and wonderful, and we will not be IR anymore. Which I keep saying IR. IR stands for improvement required. That means we did not meet standard. Okay, we do not need to create the profile. That's going to be done for us. We're going to be looking at STAR data shortly. Now, if you would look at your other handout that I gave you, not the slideshow one, but the one that has what's your plan on the front of it, this one. This should be on page 11, I think. Yes. So we don't have all of this information at our fingertips today, but these are some of the items that I will be sharing with you through email so that you can adequately answer the questions that we need to answer. We'll be looking at our mobility rate, which is pretty low. We don't have very many kids move. How many students we have in ESL, how many students we have in special ed, and that includes speech, how many students we have in 504, how many students we identified at risk, which we're going to be doing that soon as we take our BAS test, the teacher-student ratios, which for the charter school, for the most part, it is all 20 students to one teacher. We do not have graduation rates or course and class assignment rates or college and dual advanced placement rates. We do have attendance, which we've already identified that that's a concern that we have. We know that our issue last year was we ended up the year at 93%. Our budget was based on 97%. And so we really need to work on improving our attendance rate. And also, when you look at the accountability system, there's about 6 different areas where attendance gave us a knockdown because of our attendance scores. So that's something that could really help us. It's something that's easily fixed. It can either hurt you a lot or it can help you a lot, basically. We will look at our ethnicity breakdown, gender breakdown, our student achievement data, excluding SAT, ACT, and all of the high school things. We'll look at our TELPAS results and our overall, looking at report cards from last year. We did a parent survey at the end of last year, so I will be providing those results to you to look at. And I'll also provide for you our turnover rate with teachers, which last year was really low. This year it's a little bit higher, but that's okay. It's just September, right? So we will be looking at that because that plays a part in things as well. And the second page is going to be looking at curriculum and professional development. We've already pretty much identified that most of our staff development was done last year in reading, which showed on our scores. So this year we really need to focus on writing and math, and we've already identified that and have a plan in place for that. Looking at getting parent volunteers more actively involved, looking at decision-making processes and technology and how we can incorporate more technology into our curriculum. All right, I am going to pass around now our documentation form for our sign-in sheet today. So we have that done. And then on the next page, I want you to look at, it should say demographics. Actually, yes, it should say focus area, demographics at the top. It's the page, you have a copy of the sign-in sheet as well, so it's the page right after that. And if you could just take a few minutes to answer the questions that you know the answers to. It's fine if you don't know the answers to all of them. I'm just looking at the page that says focus area demographics. The first question is, what do enrollment numbers indicate for your campus? Do you have that? It's in the other packet.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
It's
okay.
page 14 in the other packet. And like I said, some of the questions you might know and some of them you won't. So this first page, and you can keep answering, I'm just going to explain a little bit. The first questions that we are answering as a committee, we're looking at enrollment numbers, we're looking at staff ethnicity, we're looking at our student populations and where our students come from, and we are also looking at our student-teacher ratios. And I'll tell you, we do not have any migrant students.
The only thing I was gonna mention is like maybe we had some Harvey displacements a little bit last year, like
I think
Jasper's
last year we
family.
did.
But I don't know if any of them were in that group of star kids at all.
I don't think so. No, I don't think any of them were here because of the storm.
Are you wanting us to like name kids on
No,
here? Oh, okay.
No,
I
just give like a number.
oh, okay.
I was putting like a single parent or something like that for at risk.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
because there's a technical educational way to identify students at risk, but there's a whole lot of other ways that kids can be considered at risk as well.
Are they just like the problem kids, the ones that are constantly in trouble, those kids?
Well, it could be the ones that have behavior concerns, it could be ones that are struggling academically, could be ones that come to school dirty every day. There's lots of things that, I guess there's lots of things as an adult that we take advantage, that we, not advantage. that
Take
we
for granted.
take for granted, that makes us comfortable and helps us, get through the day and be how we wanna be. And kids can't control that. They can't control what their backpack looks like, or if their clothes are clean, or if they took a bath last night, or if they lived in a car,
Or if they're hungry or
if they're hungry. And I want you to just think about, as you're finishing, just one comment that you would like to share just overall from this page of questions, just kind of like an overall statement. Nothing formal, just kind of, what thoughts came to your head.
What is the subpopulation?
Yeah, subpopulation.
What would that be?
Subpopulations, that would be like, your Hispanic students, your African American students, your, Asian students. It could be your special ed population, all the students that are special ed, all the students that are identified ESL. There's 14 subgroups identified by TEA. And they're all considered important on accountability.
Don't you have to have a certain number to be considered a subgroup?
Used to be 25, now it's 10.
In a subgroup or a total?
That's another thing that impacted us on accountability, because we were anticipating a group of 25. But the good thing is, through this process, we're gonna learn a lot.
So something I was thinking about, that I didn't think of until this paper, but we have students that aren't coded as at risk that we might look into coding at risk because they have not passed the STAR test now, right? Like, isn't that one of the factors?
Yes, that is correct.
So
yes.
now we need to update that because that will
do,
increase our
yes.
at risk.
Mhm. We do need to identify those kids. And look at the ones that came to us that
Right.
didn't test with us, but they did test last year.
Mhm.
Because they need to be identified at risk as well.
Yeah, that's huge, cause that's a large number.
Yes,
Mhm.
it is.
Mhm.
Very good thought. And I also didn't realize what a big impact economically disadvantaged numbers made on this. Not, I mean, as a subgroup, yes, but, one of the domains, a very big part of your percentage. I guess the best way to explain it, it's kind of like a plot chart where, depending on what your economically disadvantaged number is, the lower that number is, the higher you're expected to perform.
Mhm.
So, you know, we, right now on that plot chart, where we had 16% of economically disadvantaged last year, we're not in a very good spot, because really and truly with only 16% of our kids being identified, we should be like scoring in the 90s, according to their TEA's theory of how things should be. If you don't have economically disadvantaged children, then you should perform better. But there's so many other factors that go into that we know. So just one shout out about this first page of questions, just kind of an overall thought.
Yeah, we need to look at more of the at-risk subgroups, kind of figuring out exactly what those are and who those kids are.
Yes.
And I was just gonna say, I think, I could be wrong, but I feel like our SPED 504 numbers are a little bit like higher than normal. It's a pretty high concentration of that in our
Yes.
in our tested
Yes,
population.
Mhm.
I agree.
And that all goes right towards our accountability just as much.
Yeah, we have a high percentage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We have low numbers with a high percentage of them being special ed or
Mhm.
504.
Yeah.
Which I think is an example of, you know, sometimes we're kind of like a last resort for parents.
Mhm.
Someone else here? Okay, let's go to the next page of questions. And the next page focuses on student achievement. And again, there's going to be questions on here that, that you might know the answers to. There might be some that you do not know the answers to. Basically, I just want you to read through them, kind of get an idea, and just write down what you think the answers are if you have an idea of what those answers would be. Obviously, the questions dealing with dropout rates and anything as far as graduation doesn't apply to us, obviously. But there's 10 questions on this focus area, and it's all on student achievement. Specifically looking at student growth, which is one of our goals, and also looking at the subpopulations of students.
Since, like, my campus is the first year to STAR, like, when I'm answering these, how
Think
should
of
I,
your campus.
how should I, like, since we haven't test, and I don't have any results, should I just go based off, like, what they did in second grade and now what they are
Yeah.
doing in third grade?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we don't have data from year after year to see how they're
No, we don't.
progressing, so it's kind of hard to.
Right, which also impacted our accountability because
We didn't have a program.
there's a domain that focused specifically on growth,
Right.
which we got a 0 for because we had no students, so we can't show growth.
Right.
So the only good thing about that is we can only go up.
Yeah.
Which which is why we truly thought we would not be rated.
Yeah. It's not really fair to get a 0 if
No.
you can't even get
So
anything.
our accountability rating came strictly from approaches, meets, masters.
Yeah.
Or did not meet, period, on each test. And I think that's a big part of it, Zanette. I think a lot of our kids have never been exposed to a test like that.
I know we did it for homeschooling because we didn't have to submit to anyone, so.
Right. Yeah.
Never worried about it.
I wish we never had to expose them to a test like that, but
I don't think it's a bad thing though, now from homeschooling to that, I don't think it's bad to expose them to that because
yeah.
higher learning, they're doing those things.
SAT,
And
ACT.
preparing, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
too.
true. So, that's one of the things we're focusing on this year is actually teaching the kids, not teaching the test, but teaching them how to take a test. Because, you know, some of them, that was the first time they had looked at a Scantron.
Yeah.
What is that? That's what I do with this.
Yeah, that was
So,
true.
it was teaching them how to bubble in.
Yeah.
You know, instead of putting an X or marking through it or whatever. It's all those little things that you don't think about that really impacted our kids. Because
Sitting there quietly.
it was all new.
Yeah. Well, what to do if you don't know a question
Yeah, you can't
and you
help.
don't stay on it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, move on, keep going. All right, any comments on this page, on our academic, on our student achievement?
I was just gonna say, I can already see a huge improvement in Brighton's 4th and 5th grade group, just because they're split, and like they can really focus on like that grade level content and instruction.
And I think having teachers that have taught
Mhm.
those grade levels before as well,
Yeah.
is helping. Anything else, any other comments? All right, and the next page, you should probably be able to answer all these questions. The next page, page 16, is on student culture and climate. All of you have been on campus enough to kind of get an idea of how the students feel, how the parents feel when they come on campus. So if you could just work through these questions. You know, it's looking at the strengths of our campus, what you see going on, the positives, how you feel when you walk on one of our campuses, what kind of feedback you get. I know PTO presidents sometimes get a lot more information than we do as a principal.
Hear all the gossip.
Yeah. And on this page, you also get an opportunity to express what your thoughts are on what a campus should be like, what you should see when it's there, what you should see as far as behavior and culture. Culture plays a big part in the success of a campus, a very big part. Tammy, just to fill you in, we're doing the campus needs assessment. That's part of what we have to look at to make our campus improvement plan. And so we're all just answering questions from each of the domains.
Okay, but it's specific
It's
to
from your
Green Bay, okay.
perspective. And I think number 6 is probably a very important one. What does the campus data indicate regarding classroom management to support academic achievement? I think we've found out that that can make a very big impact.
is definitely more structured
Yes.
this year.
You know, it's more structured in some ways, but then I think the expectations are there, but as far as the learning, I mean, the kids, I see kids working in groups a lot in that room, which I think is good.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's raised the bar on the 5th graders, and I think they were a little shell shocked
At first.
at first, and I think now that we've been there
Whoa.
for a few weeks, they've kind of settled into her ways, and I think they're actually all coming around to it and really enjoying it.
Good.
Because it's structured, one, but there is that wiggle room that she does give them
yeah, she gives them
to do their
freedom.
own free time, free
Mhm.
space kind of thing.
But she sets very high expectations.
Mhm.
Absolutely, she does.
And it's also a big difference for 4th grade too,
Mm-hmm.
because the teacher strategy is a lot different
Yes, I agree.
and a lot more structured.
And I would like you to share something from this area, the school culture area, when everyone's done. Is anyone ready to share? You are writing a lot on this one, that's good. I think that's good.
These
Can relate.
questions are a little easier to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah,
Not
and I
so
can relate
intimidating.
more to this, more so in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
But just going back to kind of like what y'all are talking about, just how important it is, and you can see the difference of such a structured classroom and how you can see behavior changes,
Mm-hmm.
and especially with classroom management. And I was just telling her, it was just like, I feel like a structured classroom, but
Mhm.
I also like to let them have free choice as they're doing it,
Right.
because I don't want to always be that teacher like, you have to do this, you have to do that.
Mhm.
Like, because I feel like, what's the fun of that? Being told what to do the whole time. So,
Right.
like, during my stations, they have to do that station, but during it, I let them choose how they're going to do it, kind of way.
Yeah.
And I feel like that helps behavior and not so much
And
being
they're still
told.
doing
Yeah.
what you need them to do.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like guided autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see an improvement with that.
Very good. Any comments from anyone else?
Well, my son is in Brittany's class, and he desperately needs structure, or he likes to go off the rails. And I've noticed his reading has improved, and like he does math in his head, and I'm still counting on my fingers. Things. I've noticed things improving with him being in a structured environment. Last year wasn't as structured, and he would just be like, whatever, it's fine. I don't care, I'm not doing it, and drove me crazy. But this year, I mean, just in the last couple of weeks, I've just noticed a huge improvement just in his reading. Like he's picking up chapter books which he would refuse to read before, and reading to his little brother, or just reading signs on the road, and just things that he would not have done, even 6 weeks ago.
I mean, kids might say they don't, but they really do like structure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
All of of us
that
do.
structure.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't always have to look like structure, but as long as it's very familiar to the kids,
Mhm.
I think that's what's most important, that there's not a lot of unknown every day.
Just that, like that routine,
Yeah,
that, consistency.
right.
Tammy, you have anything to share?
I was looking at number 4 and thinking about like achievement and like what teachers perceive as like their view of high expectations. And I think that all the teachers on our campus feel like their expectations are high, but I think that maybe what high expectations is, the definition, so to speak, is different across the campus. And I feel like that needs to be more streamlined so that we can raise them up. Because if they're in one class 1 year and that teacher's expecting, I mean, this is not a good example, but say they're in first grade and they're expected to write 9 sentences, and then they go to second grade, but that teacher thinks that that's already high, those expectations aren't
Yes,
consistent.
yes.
Mhm.
And so I feel like that is an area that needs to, I guess, everyone feels they're reaching
Yeah.
a certain goal, but
So we need to align
but
the
everybody's-
curriculum more, looking at the expectations
Well,
from
even
one grade
just-
level to the next.
well, and even just across campuses, like what I would consider an end of the year kindergarten writing sample may be different than what someone else would consider. Cause what I had in Round Rock, I wanted mine to write like a 3-page book in kindergarten. And then what I had last year, if they wrote me 3 sentences, I thought that was
Right.
good end of the year expectations. So I just feel like that's an area where it's kind of left up to judgment.
Mhm.
And I agree, and that's why on October 11th, we have a writing workshop so that we can establish some rubrics as to what to expect at each grade level, so that we are
Yeah.
more streamlined with that, so, very good point.
Yeah.
Anyone else have something to share on that, school culture?
We've gone to where all the classrooms are using the same voice level system,
Oh, yes.
so we're using that
Mhm.
throughout, and then we also gave it to the specials teachers.
I've been using it every way.
Good.
So and we all have the same poster in our rooms, that way it's consistent, and that way when they go up from grade level to grade level, it will always be the same, and no matter where they are, they can, like in car writer line, we can say, this is what voice level you are.
This is like a champs.
You know what, that would be great to use at Greengate to help with,
Well, and I use
Voice.
it in my classroom, but I don't know if,
that might be something really good to put in place at Greengate.
Yes, it
Because-
works in specials,
Because
but it's
Greengate
really
is
hard
one
when
of our
they.
open concept campuses, for those of y'all that haven't been to Greengate before. There's basically 3 classrooms and 1 really big room, so noise level is definitely
Yeah.
a problem, and that might be a really good thing for us.
and I kind of just modified it, so like, there's either no talking, you're using a whisper voice, or you're speaking like I'm speaking to you. And the only one who should use a level 2 voice would be if you're outside or the teacher needs to tell the whole class something.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like shrunk it down.
That's okay, as long as the kids understand it.
Well, cause I just really wanted them to be a lot quieter than what I would normally need them to be
Yeah,
in a closed door
Right.
classroom.
Yeah, it's different.
situation, yeah. Mary Elizabeth went and visited one day.
Mhm.
Greengate, so she knows what it's like over there too. And you had a baby there, right?
Yes, well,
Had
my
a baby,
oldest,
but
yeah,
Your oldest was there for daycare.
he went there daycare.
All right, and on the next one, this one actually is, I guess, very timely. This is on staff effectiveness, recruitment, and retention. I know that one thing that Dr. Knox and I have already talked about for next year as we get new teachers, that we want to put in place like an onboarding process. Because I think there's so much we take for granted that, because we started this school and we've been here for a year plus, that we just know, it's the way we do things. But I also know from when I went from a regular public school to the Sam Houston Charter, that the first thing Dr. Knox told me is, forget everything you know about public school, because this is totally different. And so I think we need to spend that time with our new staff members and give them that talk and that explanation and some background to who we are.
Yeah, I would say, like, coming into it, it was definitely hard to, like, let that go. because I felt like almost kind of lost, but then I figured it out on my own in a way,
Yeah.
just like what works, because it's not like you can talk to the other second grade team to
Right.
see what they're
right.
doing. So that was definitely a hard transition.
And that makes us very unique because
Yeah.
you don't have a team of 6
Mhm.
second grade teachers
Yeah.
that you can talk to and plan with. It's you and only
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's great. They love that.
Yeah.
But then for others, that's very, very
Yeah,
difficult.
that's where I felt lost, and I was like, "Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? I don't even know." But you kind of get the hang of it, and like I wrote to you as the, teach resource to get the hang of that, and then once you finally get it, then it wow, this really helps.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it takes a hard time to get used to it, and even sometimes when I'll give parents a tour, I'll have to stop and think, okay, I need to back up and explain a whole lot more than what I'm
Yeah.
explaining, because when I walk in here, it's like, okay, this is us, but they don't realize how we got to that point and what the vision is behind it and,
Right.
and all that. So
Parents, it's they don't think we're a public school.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. They're like,
Yeah.
"Yes, we are a public school."
I thought y'all were a real school. We don't hear that as much now as we used
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
We're a real school.
We are real.
Yeah.
We have all the real stuff that comes with it too.
Yes. That's what I would do.
Is there anything else y'all like to add on our own staff recruitment and retention? I mean, honestly, up until the last month, that really hasn't been an issue. So, and I think that's just kind of been just an out of the ordinary thing. But
Unfortunate.
I think we're back on track now, and starting Monday, we'll have a full staff at Cypress Trails and everybody that wants to be there. So it's going to be good.
Yes.
All right, the next area is curriculum and instruction. If you would kind of just glance through those questions, see if there's anything that you feel like we need to address. And specifically, teachers in the classroom, if there are things that you could, if you want to share on there, I think that'd be good, since that is one of the areas that we really need to look at streamlining, just like Tammy was saying, is our curriculum and instruction and our expectations across grade levels.
I would also expecting it from all the campuses, so that like all the kindergartners on all the campuses are at the
Yes.
same level and not some are lower
Right.
than others.
Because we had that issue last year, where on the report card, we had a kindergartner at Cypress Trails that was getting 3s and 4s on our standards-based report card, and then went to another campus, and she was getting 1s and 2s, and parents were very confused
Yeah.
by that. So I agree, that's definitely something that we need to look at as far as, well, what do you consider a 1? What do you consider a 2?
Right.
And we put some things in place this year, I think, with we put the BAS level expectations, and then we all have the same sight word list, and we all have the same expectation of how many they have to know for each grading period.
Yeah.
So
I felt like last year we were just kind of building it as it came.
right.
And it was like, let's do this real quick. And then I think being here the second year, we were like, oh yeah, I remember last year, let's just kind of put up the rest of the pieces together. I think that's good. So what, maybe I missed this, so what are we using instead of maps?
Well, we're using BAS for reading.
Okay.
And Alicia and I are actually trying to figure out what we're gonna do for math, because
Okay.
I thought we could possibly just create our own.
Right.
I thought that would be honestly better than what we could buy, but according to TEA, we can't. We have to have
Some sort of program thing.
one that's been research-based and costs money and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
we're looking at that now to
Okay.
find our math.
And for BAS, that takes care of all the requirements.
I don't know if this goes with, this part or not, you can tell me if I'm in the wrong section.
That's okay.
But, I'm not sure if it is standard practice or not, cause I've never really asked, but I feel like each teacher needs a data notebook where they're keeping their results and things for the students, and I don't know that that's a common practice. I really would say probably not.
Yeah.
And,
And honestly, with IR, it needs to be.
and I feel like, like I have something that I use in my classroom, but I feel like all the kindergarten teachers should be using the same data, cause we're doing the same report cards and everything. That way, when we come to a meeting, we all know we have
You're
the same.
comparing apples to apples.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I have stuff that I'm using for kindergarten. I don't know yet if it covers everything it needs to cover for report cards. I haven't looked at it. But I can share that, or I can help people put one together. I don't mind. But
Yeah, I think
I
that'd be
just
really
feel
good.
like,
And I know Brittany started one too, in
The
her,
data
her
binder.
class this year.
But now it's just kind of, I kind of putting it at a pause because I don't know how to.
Right, because you changed grade levels today?
And just math, like I don't know, so I didn't know what to do. So I was like, I'm just gonna maybe next year. But I started it, and like I'd be like, hey, go get your data binder, and I was just gonna send it home with report cards, because it just really is just literally they're naming what they want their goal to be. I literally just say, here it is, and you know, what's your goal for reading, and then they'll say, oh, read more chapter books. Okay, and then it has, you know, how many sight words, you know, what's your reading level on this for the first 9 weeks, and then you can see it, they can like graph it kind of thing.
yes, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Baldrige. It's like, I went through it years ago, but it is actually a business way of looking at a school. And the data graphs and things like that is what I used when I was doing Baldrige. We would have charts in our room, and the kids were given numbers or a symbol or something, and we would chart growth and progress. And so every week we would look at like how many people have learned this many more sight words, and the kids would usually come to me and say, I'm ready for you to test me on these sight words. I know them.
It's like exciting.
But it was very business based, but the kids were in charge of realizing, like, okay, I learned this, now I need to go to the teacher and she's gonna graph it and things like that. But the notebook that I'm using now is more for me to share with parents,
Yeah.
Right, your stuff.
so that I can use it to, like, I guess, guide my curriculum.
Right.
Cause I actually did the test that Faith Rogers gave us. I think it's called a PAPI.
Yeah.
And I like administered that to all my kids just because we don't do beginning of the year like BAS.
Right.
And to kind of help, but I don't know if people know how to like go through that. I mean, I'm not the best at it, but go through that and like use that information to create groups and to do those kind
Yes,
of things.
and that's a big part of what we're going to do with this IR process is, okay, here's the data, we know what it says, now what do we do with it? You know, and how do we make it where it's having impact on instruction?
Well, because I think that it could probably be used, and I talk a lot, so I apologize,
No, you're
but
fine.
I think it could probably be used to guide our, you know, guided math or guided reading, but also the things that we are unable to hit in there because there's going to be kids that don't fall into the right category to make your
Right.
groups. Then we can then pull that over into multi-grouping to
Yes.
hit those needs.
Yes, very good. Very good. Can you write both of those, the Baldrige and the teacher data notebook on your
Sure.
morning? Anything else on curriculum and instruction? All right, the next page is similar to student culture, but this is family and community involvement. So if you could just kind of read through there and maybe make a comment at the bottom as to what you feel like needs to be addressed as far as family and community involvement. I know that, you know, we have great involvement, but it's like small groups that help us. So trying to find ways where we can extend that to a larger audience. We are excited this year that we actually have, you know, working PTOs at 3 of the campuses, so that's really good. We are on page 19.
Are there buildings available, like say Cypress Trails or Brighton, because I know that Green Gate's probably not, but like to do like a regular like math night or science night where they come in. We did one at my last school and they actually came in and like they learned our problem solving process. So the parents would come in and the kids would have their problems that they're thinking. The kids were working with them using our
You're on the ball today, Tammy.
Pastor Louise
Oh,
has
he would
talked to me
love
about doing
that.
stuff like that.
And
Doing
then-
a science night, a math night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and each grade level was just responsible for their area, but like the games we were playing in math, we had copies that the parents could take home of the, and we maybe provided them with dollar store dice or, you know, something.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And, I don't know, the parents really like came out, and then we kinda
Mhm.
used it as a fundraiser, cause we did like a bake sale.
Mhm.
Oh.
So we did a bake sale that made money for, cause they would wanna come and they'd eat. We would
Mhm.
order pizza and do a bake sale, and,
Dollar slice or?
Yeah.
and,
Hey, we got that.
you know, the kids would bring their quarters and buy
Yeah.
whatever, but,
I think
Yes.
it's like that kind of thing. It's like
Write
the
that
kids
down.
want to like show their parents. You know,
Yeah.
this is something.
Look what I'm doing
Yeah.
in class.
Mhm.
And if you wanted to do it, like each PTO take one thing, like one PTO take drinks, another one take pizza, another one take candy or
Then it's
whatever.
not all on one.
Mhm.
Right. And then it's not, like everybody gets to share the profits, so there's no,
Yeah.
there's no fighting
Yes,
over
there's
that.
no fighting over
But
that.
it's also that, you know, it's just a whole group effort,
Mhm.
but it's also small enough that we don't have to, like, the different PTOs, but
Right,
they're
that
so
it's not
small.
overwhelming, you
Yeah.
know, an overwhelming event. It's
Yeah.
something that's
Mhm.
manageable.
I think it'd be cool to like see the whole district come
Mhm.
together
Yeah.
because that doesn't, other than field day.
Other than field day, yeah.
Yeah.
well,
doesn't really
and,
happen.
I mean, teachers could bake a dozen cookies and bring them too, I mean,
Yeah.
that
I would
would
go
help.
buy them.
That would,
You don't want me making cookies.
I'll go.
I mean, that would curb
But I can
costs.
buy cookies.
I make healthy cookies, no one wants to eat them.
And you have like crazy
That's,
stuff
that's a
in it.
great
don't
idea
you?
too.
Yeah, that I like that.
All right, I think the next focus area is school context and organization. It's me, myself, and I. But if you have any suggestions or anything that you would like to add that you think we could do differently that doesn't involve money, you can write those ideas on this page.
And I believe that at my last school, the children's museum comes for free, and that is amazing. I think my principal said they came for free, and the kids, they have like these booklets that have activities for the kids, and they provided all the materials, and I think they came for free. So, I mean, I could call them and ask them, but I think they came.
That'd be cool.
Jeanette and Emily?
If you go to the Children's Museum, it's $6, I
Yeah.
think, but yeah.
Well, cause I know,
It may be, were you at a total Title I school?
Yeah,
That
I know
may
I was
have
Title I.
Something to do with it
Yeah.
too, but.
because you can go to the zoo for free, there's lots of things for free through Title I.
I know it was
That's
Title
definitely
I.
worth looking at.
We have a parent that's friends with the one that, in the Woodlands, the one that runs the
Okay.
Woodlands one, and she's looking into getting us a deeply discounted price.
Oh,
Yes.
nice, deeply discounted price.
Yes. If free would be great, but
And then the
she's
last-
working on that one.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Mm.
And then the last focus area is technology, which honestly, I mean, you might disagree, but I feel like we have an overabundance of technology.
Yeah.
It's just getting the Wi-Fi and the capability to be able to use it all the time. And that's more of a structural
Facilities.
building owner issue, that, if there is anything technology-wise that you feel like, you know, we could address as the charter school, please list that on there. So what will happen next, is I will read through all of your responses today, I'll look back through, our meeting notes, and I will look at what are some of the root causes of the concerns that we have and the academic performance that we had from last year. We will come back, I will take those root causes and I will form a target intervention plan. We'll come back and we'll talk about that and I'll get your input on anything that you think we need to change or add to it based on the discussions that we had today and all the questions that we went through. So I would encourage you that, you know, if there's anything after this meeting, I will need you to leave your responses with me. But if there's anything after this meeting that you think of that you would like to share with me, if you would please just email that to me or come and talk to me so that we can make sure we get all of your ideas included in the plan. Thank you.
Thank you.